You've kind of you went from being a victim of wire fraud to kind of being an advocate to help other people do this. And I think that happened because not just your law background and you being victimized, but also being in the real estate agent space, realizing how big of a lack of education there is, right?
Well, I didn't really jump into things nationally till after it happened to me. I was just trying to process what was going on, trying to understand the problem. And then about a month later, I was with a client who was going to close on a property in Westfield. And we were going through the walkthrough. And so this was the day before the closing. Oh, you won't believe what happened to me yesterday. I got these wiring instructions, and it said that we had to wire the balance of the monies today versus, the closing tomorrow.
Right.
And she said she contacted her husband who worked for J.P. Morgan and said, Dave, you have to go down to the bank today, because if we don't do it today, the closing is going to get pushed back, and that's going to mess up things with the movers, and the kids are going to camp. And she showed me the whole text chain. And he basically pushed back, but she convinced him to go down to the bank. And so he was at the bank. He had the wiring instructions with him, and it was for $225,000. He was about to hand it to the teller, and she's an accountant, and part of her, she just thought, oh, wait, maybe this isn't legit. And she checked the monies, the account where it was going to be wired to, and she realized it was fraudulent. Wow. And she called him and said, don't send it, and he didn't send it. But when she told me that, coming on the heels of what happened to me, I realized this is a huge problem. And this happened to me. I've experienced this twice in 6 weeks. This has to be a big problem. Why aren't people talking about it? Why aren't agents talking about it? And I remember I was at the parking lot outside of the attorney's office, and I said, I am promising you right now, I am going to jump into this issue with both feet. And as you mentioned, I've got experience as a lawyer, but I was also a lawyer in Washington, D.C. So I kind of know my way around things at the national level. So
how to make things happen for people to actually care about them.
Yeah, kind of really what's the process. So, I kind of knew who to contact. So I knew how to kind of work my way in to meet the key decision makers. And I knew, so the title companies are the ones that are really on the front line with this issue. So, I knew about Alta. It's the trade association for the title companies. And I found a senior vice president at Alta who cared about this issue and connected with him. And I had prepared some materials. I made a video, which I believe you have a link to that. And then worked on some materials. And he invited me down to Washington. I remember driving down to Washington and thinking I was going to have a one-on-one meeting with him, and it turned out it was all the leadership of Alta was there. So I ended up giving a presentation, and basically I had a whole bunch of ideas, and they started executing, and that kind of began my relationship with Alta.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I applaud you for taking on this issue, because this has been a big problem for a long time. And I feel like most people don't talk about it. And, I don't know, for those of you that are watching and you're real estate agents, you notice that recently we got a wire fraud addendum, right, to add to the purchase and sale contract. Mm-hmm. And people just sign it, but they don't read it. They don't learn about it. And whose responsibility is this, right? As realtors, as attorneys, title companies, whose responsibility is it? What do you think? What's your opinion about that?
So as far as responsibility, I think agents have a more of a duty and a responsibility to educate their clients. The title industry has their association. The real estate industry has just an association for real estate agencies, brokerages. There's a trade association for agents, NAR, who we deal with all the time. There's no one representing home buyers and sellers. There's no one looking out for them. And so I think that it's incumbent upon the agent to take that role. And we have a unique relationship with our clients. They listen to us. We're their advisors.
That's why they hire us.
Right.
To trust that we can guide them through this process.
Right. So if you're meeting with a prospective seller and you're talking about listings, you'll talk about how you're going to market the property, what they need to do to the property, and everything kind of like works up to, the sale price and the closing, but you kind of gloss over that sort of that ugly process right before the actual closing, where things are frenetic, documents flying back and forth and emails and all this pressure to get everything done. And, buyers and sellers, especially first-time buyers, they don't know what's going on. They're nervous about it. They've got a lot going on. And this is when the fraudsters attack.
Right.
because there's all this craziness. So I think what agents and what I've been doing since it first happened to me is I make it a point to have a discussion, not just with my clients, but even before with any prospect. I'll talk to them, about the real estate stuff. And then at the end of the meeting, I'll say, there's one more thing I need to talk to you about. And this is really important. And if I never see you again, I want you to remember what I'm going to tell you. And that kind of locks them in. And then I talk about wire fraud. I said, this is a big problem. And not many people know about it. Buyers and sellers don't know about it. A lot of agents know of the problem. They don't understand how it occurs. They don't know what to tell you. But I just want you to realize that this is going to be an issue for you to focus on later on in the transaction. And when we get to that point in the transaction, I'll hold your hand through the process and tell you what you need to do. But right now, just sort of log that in your memory that you need to pay attention to wiring money.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about some of the, the logistics of that after Rich tells his story. But first, I just want to say thank you because literally last week, and this is what prompted bringing you back, because Rich did do a training for our entire company on wire fraud. We did a live training and then we did a video, and I basically text messaged the video to every single one of our agents and said, when you've watched this video, text me back confirming that you watched the video.
That's great.
And last week, one of the agents that was at your training and watched the video, a couple years ago, Gail Brickman, she saved a client from $124,000 in change. So that 1 hour, 2 hours of your time,
that's great,
and all the resources and everything that you put in, I just want you to know that it's paid off. Probably to a lot more than that, but that's the one that I know of for sure that happened.
Great.
And I just want to say thank you. And those clients, I know they don't know you, but because of your education and your training and, bringing you out to that saved them a lot of heartache, because this is a nightmare situation, right? Anything else that you want to share with everybody, or can you mention your website again?
Sure. It's richhopen.blog. So this is an issue I'm very passionate about. I've got another issue that I'm more excited about, and that has to do with crypto. I have a weekly newsletter called Crypto News for Realtors. If you go to my website, you can sign up there, and you can read previous issues.
Awesome.
Of that. So
thanks, Rich.
Oh, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. All right. Thanks a lot.
Guys.